Junkerqueen. She's like Brig, but with a shotgun. She swings a weapon around, heals herself, heals her teammates, and most importantly, when played right, she seems impossible to kill.
Or they're still going.
Echo's blanking first actually.
Wait, that was buggy.
So how do you play her? Junkerqueen's main source of damage is a shotgun, but a very different one. Most shotguns in Overwatch have a very wide spread, which highly incentivizes you to get face to face with an enemy if you want every pellet of damage to hit. As you might have guessed, Junkerqueen's shotgun is an exception to this unwritten shotgun rule. You can get the max damage per pellet from a pretty far distance away. So this basically means you can poke a lot more effectively than you would on other shotgun heroes. Speaking of poke, let's talk about her secondary fire, Jagged Blade, aka Gracie. Running through the basics, it does more damage than the base primary fire. It also heals you for 15 HP, which is also about the same amount a melee would heal you for. Aside from damage, the big thing is landing the knife and pressing the secondary fire again will boop the target towards you. If they're above or below you, the target gets pulled further. If the target is on a slope, it bugs out and they won't move far. If you choose not to pull immediately, the target will automatically get pulled. The cooldown timer starts as soon as the knife lands. So what that means is if you retract immediately, you'll have a 6-second cooldown. But if you wait for it to happen automatically, you'll have a 3-second cooldown. In other words, it doesn't really matter if you pull early or late unless you need the knife to melee someone. Now that I explained the what, I can finally get to the when and where. So when do you use it? Whenever. Where do you use it? Where there's enemies. Basically, if you feel like you have a chance of hitting it, there's almost never a reason not to. The damage and displacement on this ability has a pretty solid chance of leading into some kind of follow-up, whether it be your team or Junkerqueen's next ability, Carnage, or as I like to call it, the Axe Swing. The Axe Swing deals almost enough damage to one-shot a Tracer, and it heals Junkerqueen for 55 HP. The catch to this ability is it is very committal. While in progress, you can't use any other abilities, and it's a wind-up, so you're going to have to time the swing just right. As I mentioned earlier, it follows up knife pull pretty well. You can manually knife pull first, then immediately walk up an axe swing, or you can play it safe for the automatic knife pull timer, then immediately axe swing, and if that doesn't kill them, you're only 3 seconds off your next Jagged Blade. For most squishies, you won't need a second knife, but it definitely clutches up when fighting an enemy tank. Junkerqueen's next ability is Commanding Shout. This ability is argued by some to be OP. She gains a movement speed bonus and temporary overhealth. The OP part is that all her teammates in range also get it. So when should you use it? You'll want to primarily use it to save you or an ally. The second use for it is to get out of spawn quicker. But the third, this is where most people mess it up. You want to use it to push the advantage. Pushing the advantage doesn't mean running it down mid and hoping for the best. It means you or your team have the advantage in resources, so you use those resources to win an interaction. So rather than opening with Shout, you want to capitalize with Shout. Lastly is Junkerqueen's ultimate, Rampage. If you played Reinhardt, it almost works like his pin, except faster, and it goes through enemies instead of just pinning them. The anti and burst damage makes it a very good opening ultimate. The hitbox is also very generous, so the main thing to look out for is spacing for your endpoint. You want to make sure you end up close enough to follow up on your own ultimate, but also far enough to where you don't get focused by an entire team. The general rule of thumb is, it is better to finish behind them than inside them. Whenever possible, you want to save Shout for after your ultimate. It just makes it easier to follow up on Axe Swing, and it also makes running away a viable option. And just a few more tips before I close. Melee with knife is very good. It deals more damage than anyone else's melee, so use it on squishies as a finisher. 1 headshot leads into a melee finisher, 2 body shots lead into a melee finisher, 1 knife throw, 1 body shot lead into a melee finisher, 1 ultimate, 1 body shot lead into a melee finisher, and lastly 1 axe swing and 2 melees can finish most squishies. You do not have to remember all that, just remember that melee is usually good when their health bar gets really low. And also, one last tip, it's good to melee Tracer when she gets close enough because 1 melee is nearly 1/4 of her health, and that will force recall or impending death.